That may be the greatest catch I've ever seen in my life.
All right, guys, let's talk about a wide receiver. That was my wide receiver one coming into the NFL draft. Ceedee Lamb. I mean, there is so much to dive into here. Whether he's a buy, sell, or hold, we'll all get to. But guys, if y'all have not already, go down there, drop that like, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. It really, really helps us out. We are closing in on 2,000 subscribers, and I owe y'all a massive thank you for all the support that y'all have decided to show the channel as of late. Anyway, let's talk about Ceedee Lamb. Okay, so guys, with Ceedee Lamb, before we say anything, I will acknowledge the fact that I am very biased with Ceedee Lamb. As many of y'all know, I'm graduating from the University of Texas. Y'all know that the Oklahoma Sooners are our major rival. We play them in the Cotton Bowl every season. I went and saw Ceedee Lamb play in person. Ceedee Lamb had his best game of his college career, absolutely beating us single-handedly, and I'm just saying that in that I have that vividness bias. I have something deep down in me just because I saw one random game in person, which means nothing, that Ceedee Lamb is a good football player. So please just keep that in mind with how I am viewing this overall profile. Maybe I'm just looking at it through rose-colored glasses. But anyway, with Ceedee Lamb, we're going to do what we've done for all these other players, as really looking at only 2020 is not enough. We need to be getting as many data points into our sample as possible. We need to be looking at these players as they came into the NFL as well, just because one season is not enough to project them out. And with Ceedee Lamb, let's go through his college profile coming out of Oklahoma. Let's see what type of prospect he was to be our wide receiver one in the 2020 NFL draft class. And let's go through, and Ceedee Lamb, currently 21 years old. I'm tired of talking about this, guys, but it is a major deal for these players to not only come into the NFL at an extremely young age, as we know that increases their hit rate tenfold, but also once they're productive at an extremely young age at the NFL level. We know that if you look at the historical hit rates of players that have seen that age-adjusted production, it is extremely high, and the list is very impressive. Not only does Ceedee Lamb check the age box, but he also has fantastic size, standing at 6'2", about 200 pounds. We know that this is prototypical wide receiver size that we like to see. Not only does he have the age, not only does he have the size, but he also has the team investment. He was drafted with the 17th pick in the first round by the Dallas Cowboys. And I'll say that we know with running backs, draft capital is everything. At the wide receiver position, it's a little bit different just because teams value wide receiver profiles differently, whereas a field stretcher will be worth a lot more to an NFL franchise than someone that is going to be racking up targets and playing a little bit of a different role. And the role that Ceedee Lamb profiles to be is someone that is a target hog, not necessarily stretching the field. So we know if he was a field stretcher, he would probably be going a little bit higher than this. Regardless, that's just a quick side note. We know what's most important at the wide receiver position coming into the NFL draft is not necessarily their athletic profile, where Ceedee Lamb is a decent athlete. I mean, he ran a 4.50 at the NFL Combine. This put him in the 63rd percentile for size-adjusted athleticism. We know, I say this all the time. I mean, at wide receiver, we don't need to see the athleticism. What we need to see is we need to see the advanced metrics look good in terms of its production at the college level. And if we go down and look at what he was able to accomplish at OU, in his true freshman season, he averaged 62 receiving yards a game. Then his sophomore season, he was able to step it up to 83 receiving yards a game. And then once Hollywood Brown left the situation, we saw him step it up to 102 receiving yards per game, completely taking over as a junior for the Oklahoma Sooners. And now, while all those numbers are good, what's even better to look at the wide receiver position is actually the advanced metrics. And this is going to be breakout age. If y'all don't know what breakout age is, it's what age was the wide receiver in his college season that he was finally able to break out onto the scene. And we have Ceedee Lamb with a 19-year-old breakout age, and this puts him in the 81st percentile. This is extremely relevant in projecting future success at the wide receiver position for these players, just like what we're talking about with them going into the NFL at a very young age. We need to see them dominating college at a young age as well. I mean, it's just very natural to understand why this is the case, because the players that are extremely talented, the guys that are able to make a difference, generally have that talent right away. And then if you demonstrate that talent right away, you should be able to continue to progress as your career goes on. So Ceedee Lamb is nowhere close to the most talented version of himself that we are going to see. And that is what we should be getting excited about. I really hate seeing a wide receiver that, yes, maybe had a great college season, but it did not happen until his junior year. And then he's coming into the NFL at a little bit of an older age with not that much production throughout his entire collegiate career. This is going to be someone like a Kevin White way back in the draft class with Devontae Parker. We know that Kevin White fit that mold perfectly, where he was a player that kind of came out of nowhere his last season in college. And that's not something we're chasing. We're not chasing athleticism. We're not chasing late breakouts. We want early breakouts and guys that have the production to go along with it. And then if we were going to look at where that production came as well, I mean, if you look at his dominator rating, this is how much of the offense Ceedee Lamb was able to account for through the air. He was able to account for 38% of the Oklahoma Sooners offense his junior season. This puts him in the 76th percentile. And yes, that's not necessarily looking like an elite number, but we have to keep this in context in that Oklahoma is a pristine university. I mean, I'm sorry, not university. Clearly, that's not the case, but they have a great football team. And with their football team, I mean, it's going to be hard to see a dominator rating higher than 40%, just because we know they have very strong recruits coming into their program every single season. I mean, it's not like Ceedee Lamb is playing at a Division II college where he's able to have everything in that offense. But what we also see is his junior season. I mean, Ceedee Lamb had ridiculous efficiency. I mean, he was able to average over 20 yards per reception. This puts him in the 96th percentile. Absolutely ridiculous with what Ceedee Lamb can do with the ball in his hands. But we've talked enough about the profile of Ceedee Lamb coming into the NFL. Clearly, he looks like an elite level prospect. Let's focus in on what he was able to accomplish his rookie season so far. And if you look at Ceedee Lamb through the first 16 weeks, he's had 4.6 receptions per game, 60 receiving yards per game, as well as 5 total touchdowns. Now, these are numbers that are very exciting for a wide receiver that's 21 years old. I mean, this is putting him on a very nice track to be one of the most talented wide receivers in the entire NFL. But what's even more telling about this is the splits between Dak Prescott being his quarterback and Dak Prescott not being his quarterback. So right now, we actually have Ceedee Lamb as the wide receiver 31 in terms of points per game throughout the entire 2020 season. But if we break this down into games with Dak Prescott versus games without Dak Prescott, we actually have Ceedee Lamb as the wide receiver 16 in points per game with Dak, whereas without Dak Prescott, Ceedee Lamb is actually the wide receiver 42 in points per game. So clearly, Dak was not a major impact player only for Amari Cooper and Michael Gallup. He was for Ceedee Lamb as well. And then if we were trying to project what this wide receiver room is going to look like going forward in 2021 and 2022, it looks like both Amari Cooper and Michael Gallup are locked in to this team in 2021. If you look at the dead money that the Dallas Cowboys would have to take on if they cut Amari Cooper, which I don't see why they would. Amari Cooper is still a premier wide receiver at the NFL level. But you look at that contract after 2022, I mean, Amari Cooper is going to be a very tough sell for the Dallas Cowboys to keep on. Where, yes, we know Amari Cooper got a $100 million contract this past offseason. But after 2022, I mean, he has no dead cap space. I mean, he would be one of the premier wide receivers in the NFL in terms of how much money he is getting paid every single season. If they decided to move on from that contract, maybe we see Ceedee Lamb take a step up in 2021 where he's the solidified wide receiver 1 for the Dallas Cowboys. And the Cowboys don't feel like paying elite numbers to Amari Cooper to be the wide receiver 2. They don't have to. And on top of that, we know that Michael Gallup his rookie contract are actually up in 2022 as well. So what I'm going to be expecting for this wide receiver room in the long haul is I'm going to be expecting that we see all 3 of these guys make up the best wide receiver group in the entire NFL in 2021. But then after that, in 2022, I think the Dallas Cowboys are going to be forced to either move on from one of Amari Cooper or Michael Gallup, as it would be very expensive to have all 3 wide receivers on their team. But the most concerning thing, in my opinion, is actually the quarterback situation for the Dallas Cowboys. Now, I know Jerry Jones has come out and he said he's going to take care of Dak Prescott. He's going to give him a fair contract. But if you've been following the NFL long enough, I mean, how many times do we see an owner, a general manager, be willing to go out of their way to make sure they are taking care of a player? And how many times have we seen them go out there and cut a player for a small saving and really not have too much regard for the player to begin with? I mean, they did not want to give him a long-term contract coming into the year. I think that in the back of his mind, Jerry Jones is looking at this as a way that he is going to get Dak Prescott for a little bit cheaper this upcoming season. I hate to see it, but maybe Dak Prescott is out of Dallas. It's going to be something that we need to monitor. I mean, it would be extremely expensive for them to franchise tag him yet another year. And we know that someone is going to be willing to pay Dak Prescott a maximum contract or very close to a maximum contract. Just depends if Jerry Jones is going to be willing to do so with the injury. And also, I'd be completely fine with or without Dak Prescott if we saw the Dallas Cowboys picking in the very beginning of the 2021 NFL Draft, which we thought was going to be the case when they were sitting at 3-10, but they've won the last 3 games. Now they're competing for that pitiful division. They're currently 6-10, so it looks like they're most likely going to be out of the range where they're not going to be able to get a guy like Justin Fields. So yeah, I really don't know what the quarterback situation is going to look like for this team in the long haul, but regardless, I think Ceedee Lamb is a player that we have to buy into. I mean, he looks like A.J. Brown. He looks like he is going to be able to continue his dominance going into this next season. And in 2022, then I think he could take a step up to be a DeAndre Hopkins type player if we see either one of Michael Gallup or Amari Cooper removed from the offense. Now, thank you guys. I really hope y'all enjoyed this video. I really hope y'all got something from it. As always, if y'all did, go down there, drop that like, leave that comment, subscribe to the channel. It really, really helps us out. And yeah, that's all I got for y'all. I hope I'll see y'all with the video tomorrow.